I'm Robyn Rowen, your Big I Minnesota lobbyist, and today we are going to talk about the concerning changes in the Medicare Advantage market and also supply some advice about how you can safely navigate those changes. To help me out, I'm grateful to be joined by TJ Patton, an attorney with the Minnesota Department of Commerce who is serving as the Senior Director of Enforcement. Thank you, TJ. Don't talk yet, I have more, but you can talk in a minute. Before we tap into TJ's wisdom, I want to provide a brief overview of the situation. As you know, UCare announced this fall that they were no longer going to offer Medicare Advantage plans. Other carriers announced that they would be cutting back on their MA offerings as well. This started a chain reaction with insurers still selling Medicare Advantage plans, announcing a pause in agent commissions for referrals. This means that agents who want to help the estimated 200,000 seniors looking for new coverage would not be paid for their services. To give you a sense of the level of concern, the Minnesota Aging Pathways line, which was formerly the Senior Linkage line, is receiving over 2,000 calls per day. To give you a sense of how extreme this is, their normal call volume is about 200 calls a day. I know the DOC has also been flooded with calls from concerned consumers and agents, and we at the Big I have also heard the same level of concern from our members who are trying to figure out what they can do to best help their clients. So I want to thank TJ for joining us today. TJ, I have a series of grueling and exciting questions for you. Most of them have been submitted by our members, so let's jump in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So when agents have questions or concerns about what's transpiring in Minnesota's insurance marketplace, it is natural for them to turn to their state regulator for help and guidance. Unfortunately, it feels like the DOC's hands are tied because Medicare Advantage plans are regulated by the feds. And I know it's not for a lack of trying. I know you guys want to help. So can you talk a little bit about what the DOC's role is and what that means that these plans are federally regulated?
Yes, of course. So as Robyn outlined in her opening statement, the state of our Medicare market in Minnesota is really in crisis going into 2026. Robyn provided some data on the number of impacted individuals. I would suggest that it's even larger than that number. If Minnesota has approximately 1.1 million Medicare beneficiaries, I think each one of those people may have choices that they need to make going into 2026 to ensure that their original Medicare coverage or their coverage through an Advantage or Supplement plan is adequate for their needs next year. And when it comes to Advantage plans, the state of Minnesota is really in a difficult spot because the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003, or MMA, made it so that states are expressly preempted in their regulation when carriers are marketing and selling Medicare Advantage plans beyond licensing requirements and solvency requirements. So when it comes to agent compensation, that is not an area where states have regulatory authority with respect to Medicare Advantage plans. And CMS is the regulator of those plans.
So I know agents had put protections in place many years ago that would require insurers to give them 180 days notice before making changes to their compensation. But that does not have any effect in this circumstance, right?
So the Department of Commerce through the NAIC has advocated for many years now with Congress to reconsider the provisions of the MMA to give states more regulatory oversight because the statute that Robyn is referencing, MnStat 60A175, is preempted by federal law with respect to federally regulated plans. And so the applicability of that, the protections that agents passed, would apply to Medicare Supplement and state-regulated plans, but it would be federal regulation that applies to any changes in compensation for agents and brokers for federally regulated plan types.
So I know, agents across the country and our national organization have been looking for solutions to this crisis. And I know that the Idaho Department of Insurance has issued a bulletin to make it an unfair trade practice to change commissions mid-year. I know you've been looking at that bulletin. Could Minnesota do something similar, or is that also preempted?
The MMA would preempt a bulletin like that from having force and effect when specific to federally regulated plan types such as Medicare Advantage and prescription drug Part D plans. And it's unfortunate that the state of CMS regulation has created a maximum annual cap that agents and brokers can be paid for the sale or renewal of those plan types. But in terms of a floor, it's complete within the discretion of carriers to offer as low as no compensation to agents and brokers. So it would, to positively impact the state of compensation in the federal space, would require revising CMS regulations.
Those bulletins aren't going to have much of an effect, or if they do have an effect, carriers, insurance companies could sue because it's preempted by federal law.
I believe that any state that issues such a bulletin would put itself at risk both from carrier suit and from suit by the federal government on preemption grounds.
Okay, so it's clear, like, this issue is totally in the hands of the feds. Given the shutdown, I know it's ended, but given that we've had the shutdown for weeks, have you been able to talk to CMS, and do you think there might be any relief coming from DC?
Compounding the catastrophe in the Medicare space has been the ongoing federal shutdown. Now it appears that there is going to be the federal government reopening, and so hopefully in the near future we'll be able to have additional communications with our federal partners. But as it stands right now, what CMS would historically do in situations where carriers make changes to the Medicare space are not happening, such as communicating with those carriers about their customer service expectations and ensuring that Medicare beneficiaries and interested consumers have a way to communicate with their carriers about their plan options. And right now, that simply hasn't happened as a result of the federal shutdown.
Now that it's over, do you anticipate reconnecting with CMS to see what they could possibly do now?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you for your engagement on this, because I mean, it would be easy to just throw up your hands and say sorry. So we appreciate the department continues to be engaged. And you know, since obviously it seems like we're stuck with these commission pauses for the foreseeable future, let's talk a little bit about what agents can and cannot do to help their clients. So these questions all came directly from Big I members who are obviously, as I mentioned before, very concerned about what's going on. So to start, can agents charge a fee to enroll a client in a Medicare Advantage plan or for related services? I know fees are allowed in some circumstances under state law.
It's a great question, and I know there's a lot of interest from Big I members on this topic. And here's what I would say about the charging of fees in relation to insurance services and sales. There are going to be two sets of regulatory considerations. The first is MnSTAT 60K46 Subdivision 2 permits the charging of fees for insurance services under certain guidelines, including disclosing the fees prior to their being charged and that the fees be reasonable in relation to the services performed. Again, that would be specific to state-regulated plan types. Insurance agents and brokers, it's really important to also consider any types of regulations that CMS has passed for the charging of fees in relation to those sales. And I would suggest that they may want to think about subpart C8 of 42 CFR 422, 2274, and 423, 2274, and we can provide those so you don't have to listen to me ramble on about them.
Okay, and as TJ mentioned, we are going to provide a link to all the statutes that he mentioned, so you can reference them as well. But the bottom line is that you cannot charge a fee for selling a Medicare Advantage plan. Next question, related. Are agents who are appointed by a carrier that has paused commissions obligated to help a consumer that wants to purchase a plan sold by that carrier?
It's a great question, and I know one that a lot of agents that operate in the Medicare space are considering right now as their clients, longtime clients, many of them are contacting them asking what they should do. And there's not a Minnesota law that I'm aware of specific to this issue, and so what I would ask agents to consider is reading their agency agreement with each carrier that they have relationships with to see if there is any language in those specific to this question.
I guess the same answer might apply to my next question, which is, can an agent refer that consumer to the carrier's website or other resources offered by the carrier so that they can help themselves?
Yes, absolutely. When my agency, the Department of Commerce, spoke with Part C leaders within CMS, that was one of the things that CMS highlighted, that there should be sufficient customer service resources within each carrier to assist both online and through their customer service telephone numbers with these questions. Agents can also refer people to the Minnesota Aging Pathways website or phone number, or to Medicare.gov or 1-800-Medicare. Those are the three avenues that CMS highlighted in discussions with the Department of Commerce about what agents should do when it comes to referrals for Advantage plans.
And we can put that information in the email accompanying this video as well, so you will all have access to that. Next question is, can an agent recommend a Medicare Advantage plan offered by a carrier that does pay commissions over one that doesn't?
It's another good question, and I think that the agent will need to consider that each Advantage plan is designed in such a way to offer certain benefits through specific provider networks. And so it may not be as easy as switching one Advantage plan for another. It's really going to be important that you consider the consumer's needs and preferred doctors and prescriptions and those types of things before doing so.
I can't help but wonder, as we talk about this, are carriers staffing up now that they're taking agents essentially out of the equation, are they staffing up sufficiently to be able to handle consumer requests and needs?
It's a great question, and one that we're very interested in at the Department of Commerce. It's something that we tried to get more information on from CMS. Again, as a result of the federal shutdown, they have not had the resources, the staff, to follow through on what they would normally do when situations like this occur. I think Minnesota is unique in the landscape because of both the UCare exit from this space and other carriers deciding to reduce their service areas. And so the scale of the challenges we face in Minnesota going into 2026, I think may have even caught CMS a bit off guard. And my real hope is that in the near future, as the federal government reopens and staff returns to CMS, that those communications between CMS and carriers about their customer service staff and expectations will play a role in making things a little easier over the last month or so of open enrollment, but yet to be determined.
Okay, thanks for that. So can an agency ask a consumer to purchase other lines of insurance with their agency if they want help purchase a Medicare Advantage plan from a carrier that doesn't offer a commission? So, okay, well, we won't get a commission for this, but if you buy auto or homeowners from us, we can throw that in.
Again, I think the important thing that agents will want to consider is what are the CMS regulations on cross-selling. There's not a Minnesota-specific law that I'm aware of that would prohibit the cross-selling of different product types to any consumer that's requesting those products from an agent. The question really becomes is, can those conversations take place at one time, or does it need to be separate consultations with an agent for each product type being sold? And again, that would be a CMS regulation dictating that.
Okay, do you have a citation for that particular?
I do not.
Okay. And now that CMS is hopefully back up and running, we can get some more clarity on some of these issues?
Absolutely. They should be available to assist agents and brokers with questions as it's their sandbox, so to speak.
Okay, so shifting a little bit to Minnesota law, as agents continue to navigate this crisis, what do they need to know about Minnesota's suitability law, and does that come into play?
Minnesota is unique. We're one of only 8 or 9 states that have a suitability law that applies outside the life and annuity space. So one of the types of products where a suitability standard applies in Minnesota is Medicare supplement plans. So again, we have CMS regulations applying to Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans. We have a state-based suitability law that would apply to Medicare supplement plans. So if an agent believes that a supplement plan, possibly with some other standalone coverage choices, are the right choice for a consumer, and that's what they're going to recommend, it's going to be really important for that agent to consider how the suitability standard is going to apply to that recommendation. When it comes to Medicare Advantage plan types, the coverage structures that have developed over the last decade are very robust. If you purchase a Medicare Advantage plan, up until recent times, you could have dental, vision, prescription drug coverage rolled into one plan. If you move to a Medicare supplement plan and you don't have those additional coverage types as part of the plan, what is it that the consumer is going to do to plan for that in the future? Are they going to purchase standalone dental or vision plans, prescription drug plans? Are they prepared to pay out of pocket for their semi-annual teeth cleanings and prescription drugs? Those are conversations that are really case-by-case specific, and it's going to require a lot of analysis to go through, because as a state regulator, what my team is going to think about when we hear reports from consumers about being moved from an Advantage plan to a supplement plan is, when you consider the totality of that customer circumstance known at the time a recommendation was made, do the values and benefits of the newly recommended plan adequately meet the customer's needs and objectives as the prior plan did? And again, it's a case-by-case analysis, and one that I think agents need to consider very carefully due to how robust the coverage types have been combined into Advantage plans over the last decade.
So, it's interesting to me. Of course, this is a conversation between two insurance nerds. So hopefully other people will find this interesting. But when you're talking about suitability in the world of annuities, it is very well documented what carriers and agents have to do to protect themselves and to demonstrate, should enforcement come a-calling or a consumer complain, very clear on what you need to document to protect to demonstrate that you made a suitable sale. In the area of MedSup, we don't have similar guidelines. So I think what you just said about it being a case-by-case basis and it meeting the needs of consumers is really important. Can you repeat that standard that you guys are going to be looking at?
Sure. So it's a totality of the circumstances test, and it's based on the agent having a reasonable basis for believing that their recommendation today is suitable for a specific customer based on their needs and objectives today. And so it is, like Robyn said, it's not a well-defined standard where you have a lot of subparts or steps laid out in statute that an agent follows to ensure he or she is meeting that standard. It's something that is pretty broad, and it's something that requires a lot of different factors to be taken into account.
So given all that, do you have any recommendations for best practices that agents can be following?
One that I repeat to agents and have for many years is making sure you document each interaction. So once you've had a consult with one of your clients, it's going to be really important that in your client file you provide a fair and detailed account of what it was that was discussed. What is it that the client told you they're interested in or worried about or want coverage for, and what is it that you talked about, and what plan types and coverage options did you consider? Because documenting in that way and doing it pretty religiously in close in time to each consult will make sure that when issues arise in the future, you have adequate records to verify that you went through the things that a regulator or a customer would expect you to have gone through when discussing what options are and eventually making a recommendation to that customer.
Thank you. I think that will be really helpful. I think we touched on this a little bit, but are there other resources for consumers where agents can refer their clients?
It's really a difficult situation. As Robyn and I have talked about many times, the U.S. healthcare system is really fragmented. It's difficult for people that have been in this work for a long time to always understand what resources are available for themselves or for their customers. So when it comes to Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans, it would be Minnesota Aging Pathways, formerly the Senior Linkage Line. It would be 1-800-MEDICARE or Medicare.gov. Those are the best resources for customers for our elderly population to get the most up-to-date information about Medicare and its changes in 2026. There may also be situations where customers need to think about either state-based programs such as medical assistance or Minnesota Care, or possibly even individual plans through the MNsure state-based exchange. And so we can certainly provide resources for each of those. Also, for medical assistance or Minnesota Care, we can provide contact information at the Department of Human Services. And for the individual plan considerations and whether or not someone is entitled to subsidies to help offset the cost of those plans, we can help them find an assister or navigator through MNsure.
Great, thank you. And again, we will have all this information in the email that accompanies this video. So shifting gears a tiny bit, we've heard rumblings that Medicare supplement carriers might also be considering pausing commissions. Is this accurate? Have you guys been hearing the same thing?
So I have heard multiple reports now about this. I have not been able to substantiate those reports. What the Department of Commerce expects for carriers offering Medicare supplement plans for sale to Minnesota consumers is that they abide by their rate filing for 2026 for supplement plans, and that they follow all state requirements, including advance notice requirements to our agents and brokers. So I haven't substantiated those. I hope not. We will look into any report of that happening, and there are going to be requirements that carriers would have to meet before such conduct would be appropriate.
And so again, just to reinforce what TJ said, if it's Med Sup, that's a state regulated product. So carriers have to give the 180 days notice in 68.175 before they can reduce commissions. So that's something to keep in mind. We covered a lot of ground here. Thank you again for your time, but is there anything else we haven't touched on that you would like to mention?
What I would say is that our agency understands what agents and brokers are going through. Customers rely on agents and brokers for really important information about their insurance needs and care on an annual basis, and that has been dramatically impacted. And so I think it behooves all of us to find ways to partner to try and ensure that future plan years do not encounter the same challenges that we've encountered now. And I know that that's not very reassuring, considering we have a month left of Medicare open enrollment and then all of plan year 2026 to survive first. But assuming we find ways to do that, I think those partnerships going into plan year 2027 are really going to be important for all of us to try and make sure that our local businesses in Minnesota and our elderly populations are protected.
Thank you, TJ, and we look forward to partnering with you on that as we move forward, and also working with other resources like our federal congressional delegation to see if we can get some changes at CMS that can help protect our members and their clients. So thank you again, TJ. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.